This is Critical Nonsense, our high-lowbrow show about culture, science, and tech. This week, Joey asks me about pranking for the likes.
Woo! All my songs are inappropriate songs that are coming to my head because of the topic of our pre-show conversation, but this is what a Joey sounds like. And this is what an executive producer of the show Jackass, Jess Vander, sounds like.
Not true. Hi, this is Jess.
It would have been great if you were a producer on the show.
If that
Jackass
was one of my sort of snippets, my like a shocking resume addition is that I actually ran a stint. I can't even say, how funny is that? I'm like, I can't will myself to say the name of the show. You can say it.
You can do it. I believe in you. No,
okay.
I won't do it. I will not say it.
I won't do it.
You say your resume says junior producer on the final season of a show on music television network that
right.
involved pranking. Who knows?
The pranks. It's a prank. Such a prankster. Just a duo of pranksters here.
Housekeeping. The girls are still fighting in the chess community.
Yeah, for sure. All right, what's the update? Any updates?
The updates are, I heard a conversation with a gentleman that goes by the name of Gotham Chess on TikTok, or not on Twitch, rather. He's like a chess commentator, has like 1.6 million chess subscribers on his YouTube channel, plays chess, things like that. Apparently, Hans Niemann has admitted that he has historically cheated on chess.com when he was...
Well, we knew that.
Yeah, but has admitted it and has not been given back his chess.com account.
Mm-hmm.
Suspect.
Credibility
and
dashed.
People are like using his gameplay from previous tournaments and his like rising play where his rank grew significantly fast and like feeding it back into like game analysis generators and stuff like that. Like they're on the hunt.
Oh, shoot.
It's going down.
Here we go. Oh, did you know of the other chocolate bunny feud? We didn't talk about this last week. Did you hear about this?
I heard a little bit about it. The Lindt versus Lindell chocolate bunny feud.
Lidl, yeah. So the basically Lidl, LIDL, I believe it's like a grocery chain in Europe, produced what appeared to be a very similar chocolate bunny for its Easter sales. Lindt was like, "That's our bunny, bish, back off," and Lindt won. And the order was that Lidl would need to destroy all bunnies, which it turns out, since it's off season, they don't actually have any bunny inventory, meaning chocolate bunnies, obviously. But
yeah.
Chocolate bunny inventory to be destroyed, which was just such a dramatic.
But those bunnies could be melted. The chocolate itself didn't need to be destroyed. It just needed to be. They shall not be in a bunny shape.
No bunny form.
Yeah. But you can still eat the chocolate. Yeah.
Yeah, they were trying to reassure people because they were like, this is a catastrophe of waste. Don't destroy the bunnies.
I want to do a little bit more research, but I think I want to come in and have a conversation about what I'm observing to be an uptick in accusations of cheating and explore that. I've seen a number of different things, but the quickness to which people are turning to an accusation of cheating seems, maybe it could be anecdotal, so I kind of want to explore around a little bit more.
Okay.
But
keep your eye out.
Future conversation.
Future chats. But what about today chats, Joey?
This week on Joey and Jess are fighting. No.
We're not fighting.
So, Jessica.
Joey.
I think I wanted to bring this up. It was sort of an open question, but I feel like you are sort of the ideal person to ask about this. And I don't know whether it's necessarily a new... It's not like a purely new phenomenon, certainly. But it feels like maybe the frequency and approach to it has increased on TikTok. And I want to talk about the idea of pranking for the likes. Pranking your family or your partner or, kids or whatever it is for likes on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. And I've sent you a few things in the ahead of this conversation, and I think there's a wide spectrum, and we can sort of explore that. But I guess my question to you is, where should we draw the boundaries around pranking for the likes?
Well, you're going to have to give a little more context. Pranking for the likes. Who's pranking for the likes?
So one of the things that I sent to you that sort of like set off my spidey senses, I have just like felt like, ooh, this is too far. Like, I guess was my response. Like, I've seen plenty of pranks. I'm like, oh, it's kind of mean-spirited, whatever. Like, even if you laugh, you're like, I would hate to be that person. But the one that I saw that sort of threw me, and we can put in the show notes, is it's like a preschool in Asia somewhere. It's like a room full of 2 to 3-year-olds, somewhere in that spectrum. And they're sitting in a room in like a horseshoe shape on like little tiny chairs. And you see a person enter in like a black rain poncho and like a mask on. And they approach the first child in the room, pull out like a toy or candy or something and hand it to the kid. And the first kid's like, great, toy or candy. And they grab it, and then once they take it from that person, the like stranger character tucks them under the poncho and runs out of the room and like puts them somewhere outside of the room and comes back in and does it to like the next kid, and like
effectively, like theatrically, though unbeknownst to the children, like kidnapping, like not actually kidnapping, but like performing a kidnapping in front of the other children.
To these children that are like, between like maybe 20 months and 3, they it looks like a kidnapping. The kid, after the first one gets taken, all of the children start crying, and the person is going around the room then trying to hand more candy or toys or snacks to these kids and like trying to force it into their hands, and the kids are like terrified and crying, and like some kids are trying to like push the person away from other kids, and like the person's trying to grab their hands and make them take it. And it's like to teach a lesson, I guess, about stranger danger, but the kids are like so scared. And I'm like, this is fucked up. Like this is not worthy of like putting online to like get some uptick in your likes. Like, you're traumatizing the children. The one funny part about it is like the last kid in the room after he goes around the horseshoe of the classroom, the last kid does just take it. And the fake kidnapper kidnaps that kid. So, but there's a spectrum, right? There's like, I told you there was like a salt prank that was happening where people were, putting like a half a tablespoon of salt on a spoon, then filling something they were making on top of that spoon and like feeding it to the family to like, here, try this, and seeing how they would react to that situation, which feels like, mostly innocuous outside of like, maybe uncomfortable and not immediately good for your like blood pressure. Like that's fine, but where do you draw the line? I remember there was a big one years ago where people were like spraying their kids in the face with water to see like when they would make them stop. And there's just like videos of kids crying, getting sprayed in the face with water. I'm like, why are we doing this? And so like, that's sort of pranking for the likes. There's like there was a Monday Night Football prank that wives were playing on husbands or women were playing on partners, where like blasting the theme song from like an NFL game to like get their partners to come running into the room, and they're like, ha ha ha, I'm watching, some like Selling Sunset or something like that. Yeah. Which feels like most innocuous, I guess, but like, is there a line? Should there be a line? Like where do we draw the line? But it feels like, I don't know. Like if you're not good at pranks and you can do like a non-mean-spirited prank, like maybe you shouldn't be doing any. I have no idea.
It also feels like this is just emblematic of the time of TikTok era of like 60-second soaps, like a melodrama that can be condensed into this very bite-sized amount. Like some of them are so obviously rehearsed too. Like some of them are like not real. Even I know this as someone who is not extremely online, can just tell, like has seen enough of the thing that you're talking about, this kind of content prank, to know that a lot of them are just trying to get, get people's attention or, do something so exaggerated and dramatic. But certainly I feel like the line's got to be drawn when you're like messing with children and traumatizing children.
Yeah, that don't have like the faculties to like, once you tell them it's just kidding, this was a prank. Like they're like, what's a prank?
Yeah, like, I don't know what a prank is.
I hate pranks. Yeah.
Have you? Yeah, I get it. I mean, same. I'm trying to remember what podcast it was on, but there was a podcast I listened to a long time ago that interviewed. It was about the original. It was like one of the original prank shows. I want to say it was what was the name? Was it like you're on Candid Cam?
Candid Camera. Yeah. This is where like the prank thing feels like pranks aren't new. The concept of pranking is not new, but how we're doing it feels maybe a little different.
Yeah, this I am remembering now. It was a Radiolab episode from earlier last year, and it was about how it was totally tanking until like when they were trying to pilot it out, until they added this like smile, you're on Candid Camera ending where it was like, no, but you're in on this joke now. Like, this is fun. And then everyone's like, ha ha ha, you're right. It's totally funny. Like everything's okay because you gave people an out. It's sort of like a resolution to what otherwise was like a very tense or stressful or like sick or whatever the situation was. It was sort of like a a release to that. And I wonder if like part of the reason that these content pranks feel so unfair is because you don't get to see the reveal all the
Yeah.
time. And then you're just like, oh, well, then I'm just laughing or, enjoying this at whoever the victim's expense.
Yeah, it does feel like it's at the expense. I was thinking, even when we were talking about when I was setting up the question, I was like, oh, funniest home videos. I didn't even think about Candid Camera because I'd seen I think they tried to do a reboot when I was young, but the original Candid Camera was before my era. I'm not that old. But like funniest home videos, sometimes there would be like pranks in the videos, right? And in some ways, like you're doing a prank and recording it is like trying to get you're trying to capture the serendipity of some of those other like funniest home videos. Like you just happen to have a camera when a really funny thing happened.
Right.
And so you're trying to like recreate that serendipity.
Right.
But like Jackass was interesting because everyone was in on it, right? Like even when you didn't know the joke was coming, everyone had like in that group of friends had consented. Like we know what we're getting. We're going to start filming another movie, or we're like in the period of recording a season. So like at any moment, like some weird shit could happen to you, but like we've all agreed to that. So that like consent component
feels better.
Makes it feel better.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm now thinking, I'm like, what other things is this like? It also takes me to a seasonally appropriate example of the Jimmy Kimmel.
Yes.
I told my kids I ate all their Halloween candy phenomenon.
Yes.
And how like I had really mixed feelings when that came out. God, like 10 years ago or whenever it was. Because the kids are so unhappy.
Yeah.
Except for that one kid who famously is like, it's okay, like it's like, if that's okay, I understand. And you're like, oh my God, this child is the nicest child.
Yeah, the one kid that's like, you were hungry, like it's okay.
Exactly. He's like, oh, don't worry, it's okay.
Yeah, that I was thinking about that one too, right? Like there's sort of like this two sides of this equation, right? There's the side of the equation where there is sort of like a pushback of like, don't be so serious. Like we're too serious. We've lost our sense of humor as a society. There's the flip side of that. It's like, well, like don't punch down. Like we've talked about that in previous episodes of like, don't, kids certainly is an example of like punching down, literally.
Right. Yeah.
They're not that tall.
Got it. We got it.
But it feels like we're like stuck in that moment where we don't have a resolution, and even like we're sort of acting in incongruous ways. Like I agree with the idea of like, don't be so serious. And I agree with the idea of like, don't punch down. And so even in looking at this phenomenon of like pranking for the likes, seeing someone's reaction at the resolution and knowing that like the relationship between whoever is pranking is like okay to where they can laugh at the joke. But like the one of the ones I mentioned, the salt thing, I'll see if I can find the video that I'd seen. It was like a wider TikTok prank that got used. But the one I saw, a mom gives a spoon of like chili she's cooking, and the son and the dad are watching football. And she comes in and gives it to the dad, and he's like, like, oh, did you add all? He like was trying to like just test the boundaries of this thing, but not go, like absolutely refusing to say this food was bad. And he's like, did you put all the meat and juices in? Like, and she's like, yeah, I did. It's a new recipe I'm trying. I think it tastes so great. And he's like, okay. And then she comes back and does it to the son. And there's this like quiet interaction that people were like analyzing like the Zapruder film or something, where they're like, the dad does like a quick look just of the eyes, and the kid eats it, and then he like looks at the dad, and the dad just does like a finger tap, like so subtle to the son to be like, nope. You're gonna say that it's good
Say
and
it's
you
good.
like it. And like those things are, but what did they, were they okay with it when the joke came out at the end? I'm assuming probably they were.
Yeah.
But it feels weird on the one hand to be like, is this even worthy of a conversation? Should we be having a conversation about like pranking for the likes, whatever? Like, it feels so serious to be like, here are the rules of
pranking.
Like, what is acceptable within pranks, right? Like, and on the flip side, like, like if someone's not okay with the prank, it's like ruining trust, or like it can sort of have negative longer term impacts of like, I still think about that kid whose mom is just spraying him in the face. She's like, I'm going to cut your hair. And she just keeps spraying the water in his face. And he's like crying, but she keeps doing it. I'm like, is that kid okay? Like, is the mom always doing this?
This is the thing about pranks at all, or that inherently, because they are a dramatic irony of like someone has information and the other one doesn't, that the prank victim, quote unquote, like cannot consent to being pranked inherently. So it requires that the prankster have to, maybe not formal rules, but at least judgment enough of whether like that this is the kind of thing where like you can't ask him, it's like, is it okay if I put salt in your food? Because that ruins the prank, and then it's not funny. So you have to be able to figure out, is this the type of person who can take it? And knowing, say, someone like myself who can't take any prank usually will just get really sad, then you shouldn't prank those people. But if you know that someone else has a mischievous type side to them, or that they would find it funny once they're in on it with you at the end, then maybe that's kosher. But salt joke. But I just think that the dynamics are impossible to create an etiquette for, by the nature of the prank being this imbalance.
Yeah, the prank is inherently like contextually anchored. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like the
even whether it's funny or not depends on that too.
Yeah, the relationship between the two people is what sets the parameters of like what prank is acceptable, right? Like the fact that Jackass can go so far with the pranks is based on an agreement, whether implicit or explicit, between that group of being like, we're going to do some out-of-pocket shit, but we're all okay with it. We've agreed to that in advance.
Yes.
Versus like every other prank. Like if I did a prank to you, like me, Joey, to you, Jess, I know that it has to be like so subtle and like so silly and innocuous for you to be okay with it, because you don't like pranks. But there's something also in this about sort of our inherent relationship with humor, right? And it is both so individual and so cultural as well, of like, what do we as a society think is funny? And also something that you brought up, right? Like your judgment is developing like up until the age of 25 even, right? Like your prefrontal cortex is developing up until that age, and you're sort of increasingly able to do it. And as we've been talking, I'm remembering pranks I did when I was like young, amongst friends that like I crossed a line in pranking that I didn't think would have ahead of time, but after did. And I'm feeling retroactive embarrassment about pranks from when I was like 18.
Yeah.
Of like, no, that wasn't like, it, even to your point, like if I'd done that same thing, which I'm not going to say, to a different person in that same group, it would have been okay, but I did it to the wrong person. And yeah.
And then it's not funny. Then it's just terrible.
But there's like this line of thought it's been explored a lot in like speculative sci-fi or things like that of post-scarcity societies that have a lot of AI and sort of change people's relationship to the world and to each other. And like the premise is, if AI is doing everything, our whole job is to simply entertain each other, right? Like anything that we do or any of our pursuits is towards the end of entertaining each other, right? Like you don't have to buy the premise. I'm more just saying like this idea exists. It was sort of explored in Ian M. Banks' Culture series, but I know it's been explored in many places. It's not like my unique idea. But if you buy into that idea as like AI is capable, or robotics or things like that are increasingly capable of taking care of the housekeeping, basically, and your job is to like pursue happiness and entertain each other and occupy your time in whatever pursuits you feel like. If we're increasingly moving in that direction, this question doesn't reduce in importance. It sort of increases, right? Like if your sole objective is to put out some form of content, whether that's like content in the way that, capital C in quotes that we're talking about now of like social media type of content, whether it's art, books, literature, whatever you want to pursue, like how does its relationship with your subjects change if everyone is producing the content?
Yeah, I mean, if pranks are humor, are art, are entertainment, then it is subject to similar grades of quality. Yes, humor is subjective, but there are more famous comedians than others. There are more famous artists than others for a reason, and that's because maybe this is just a bad prank. It's like maybe a couple people are gonna laugh, like, no, that's bad, and like maybe does not belong in most algorithms, and instead we need to sort of let the cream rise to the top.
But that's where it gets weird, right? Like so many of these pranks that I've been talking about are memes. They're meme pranks that many people are reproducing. And so like one person does it, it's funny, and then everyone's like, I'm gonna do that prank. And not everyone is doing it as gracefully or skillfully. And it sort of it plays into our sort of addictive nature, or the addictive nature of likes within social media, that when you see someone do a thing and they get likes and you say, I'm going to do it too, that's where like the judgment call comes in of like, oh, it would be funny to see how my partner or my kid or my friend would react to this same thing. But like, that's where like, what are the rules? Like there shouldn't actually be rules, but at least some sort of like guides to be like, just make sure that that's the type of person who can hang that way, or you're the type of person who could pull it off. I don't know.
Well, this is what makes it that much more interesting. If entertaining each other, let's say that becomes only more important, it's tricky when a medium is people, like where a medium of the entertainment is just like an everyday person.
The subject.
Because then that can be abused in a way that like other artistic formats may not have the same issue. That is a well,
and it's like
questions.
I mean, to the same point, like this always becomes the line is the laws are always behind the internet at this point. The laws can't keep up with the internet. Laws maybe
too fast. Laws too slow. Psh.
Yeah, but and maybe like laws have always lagged behind culture. I think that's probably true, although I'm not a legal thinker. But they're much further behind like the internet because of the pace of the internet. And so invariably what winds up happening is if we don't culturally find a way to set parameters on these things and sort of self-reinforce those parameters within culture, eventually it hits the point where some sort of legal precedence is set to establish the boundaries, right? Like good, bad, or other, that seems to be the like approach, right? And in this case, I wouldn't be surprised if there are already like legal cases around someone getting pranked that was not happy about getting pranked and sued for damages or harm or whatever.
Are many of those. And if listeners, of someone who took someone to court for a prank. Oh my God, imagine too if companies were like, oh, it was just a prank. That woman who like took McDonald's to court because the coffee was too hot. And McDonald's was like, it was a joke.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting legal strategy.
I was watching the Hassan Minhaj's recent stand-up special that just came out on Netflix.
Oh, I haven't
and there's a whole portion about it's good. I enjoyed it. But there's a whole portion about he's sort of it's like a one-man show / comedy that sort of increasingly it's very like personal and whatever. But he was talking about some of the legal battles from his show. What is it called? Patriot Act. And talking about like conversations with the lawyer at Netflix about like what is or isn't comedy and precedents and things. And it's funny to hear that like where like any reasonable person can interpret this thing as like can tell the difference between when a person is joking and when they're being serious or whatever. And it's interesting to think about how legal precedents would describe what is an adequate or an acceptable prank versus a non-acceptable prank, even just in the counterfactual. Even if I don't want, theoretically the law to determine what the boundaries of pranking is, I also think we should maybe get there. But
yep.
Well, Jessica, do you want to bring us to your prank corner? Jessica's Prank Shop? It's just flowers. It's actually just like a flower shop. And you're like, I came for pranks, but I got flowers. I left happy.
You're like, this is a weird prank, but I'm not mad. It's not really a prank, though, because no one's crying.
I called the corner something different every time at this point that anyone who would be new to the show doesn't know that this started as Jess's wrap-up corner. So Jess's prank corner is actually Jess's wrap-up corner with a new skin name specific to the episode. There we go. I wrapped up the wrap-up corner. Now you wrap up this episode.
Please prank responsibly.
Yeah, that nailed it.
Nailed it.
3 words, maybe the record on the wrap-up corner.
Shortest wrap-up corner ever.
I mean, you're very good at distilling these things, but 3 is like you're at peak powers.
And one of those words was just for politeness' sake.
Yeah. You could have just said prank responsibly. That's true.
That's
Damn,
true.
You're good.
Damn. Use my language.
Take a page out of your book. Don't say excuse my language for damn. Critical Nonsense is a Sylvain production.
Brought to you by a new New York City outpost of Weasley's Wizard Wheezes coming in 2050.
As always, we'd like to thank executive producer and stand-up comedian Jess Vander.
Woof. Thanks, Joey. We'd also like to thank sound engineer and soap opera star Alex Contel. This is my least favorite thing. I'm so bad at this. Go
Alex would be a star of a telenovela.
You're so right. You're right.
We'd also like to thank our programming coordinator and merry prankster, Les Jacobs.
And the stew in our spoon, thanks to production help, Sarah Gilbert and Nora Mestrich.
And as always, thanks, Elen.
Thanks, Elen.
The stew in our spoon. Special thanks. I'm thankful for that simple turn of phrase. The stew in our spoon. I'm going to use that.
You said in a meeting.
I'll say that to my wife or to Emerson or you're the stew in my spoon.
You're the stew in my spoon. That's where it's really that. You will always be. I would like to thank. You know who I'd like to thank? The Seth MacFarlane jazz rendition of "You're the Cream in My Coffee." Shockingly good. Did you know that other than just being a comedian himself, he also has a few jazz record labels out?
Seth MacFarlane? I knew
albums?
that he's a crooner.
Yeah, he's a crooner. He's a crooner. And he does a nice "You're the Cream in My Coffee" for the you're the
If only. Special thanks to Jackass. I think earnestly fun and delightful show because of the consent and all of those things around it, and some of the think pieces written about Jackass the franchise when the final movie came out are really good and sort of life affirming in a very strange way. There was one written on The Atlantic where a woman had never watched any of Jackass and went to a consecutive showing somewhere in the city of all 4 Jackass movies in a row and was pretty skeptical going in and came out the other side being these are just male friendships in a weird way that just left her feeling good and fun. And anyways, check that out. Also, thanks to Devin Christopher Bean, the victim of one of my pranks that went wrong and I got suspended when I was in high school. But still friends. We made up.
That's good. I'm really glad of that. I would like to thank suburban households across the United States for respecting that the concept of trick or treat really is not an invitation for a trick sort of prank situation, and in that every time really treat is the answer. So
treat or treat.
It's sort of a treat or treat situation. And actually, an additional special thanks to all of my fellow truthers compared to Truth or Dare. If you always sort of are the selector of truth instead of dare because you're afraid of what's going to happen if you pick dare, thanks to you for knowing, living safely is sometimes a good idea.
Well, there we go. And thanks to you, Jess. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Halloween, Happy Thanksgiving, right. Happy Valentine's Day.
Just like a holiday.
Have a great week again.
Okay.
Bye.
Just talking about holidays. Okay, bye. You're the sail of my love boat. You're the captain and crew. You will always be my necessity, like a restaurant with a recipe. You're the stew in my spoon. I'd be lost without you.